intelligencesquared.com.
Right, the second speaker opposing the motion is Anne Atkins. Now, Anne was educated at Oxford and then went to drama school. She's a broadcaster, journalist, and novelist. She's written 3 novels, The Lost Child, On Our Own, and Define and Private Place. She's a regular contributor to the Today programme on Radio 4, their Thought for the Day. Anne Atkins.
Thank you, Joan. I'd like you to imagine for a moment, if you would, one of the greatest virtuosi of the last century, Yehudi Menuhin, playing, let's say, Bach's Sonata Number 3, Allegro assai, which, as its name suggests, is a nimble piece, most of the tune in the bass, while the fingers are performing the most extraordinarily dexterous, I suppose is the only word I can think of, dance in the treble. And most of us couldn't even imagine our fingers flying that fast, let alone the timbre and the tone and the passion which made Menuhin the greatest in his lifetime. Now imagine, if you would, that Mendelssohn had decided to be somewhat more promiscuous. Instead of playing the violin every day of his long life, after a few years of playing the fiddle, he'd got bored and turned to the flute. 18 months of the flute and he became a drummer. Then perhaps a double bass player. Maybe he spent one night playing the tenor saxophone, the next night her alto sister. Perhaps he boasted that he'd played several instruments in one night. He would hardly have been a serious musician, let alone the genius he was. And yet some men delude themselves that this kind of dilettantism can turn them into decent lovers, please. It's like thinking you're wittier when you're drunk. Marilyn Monroe said that, and Marilyn was, of course, one of the sexiest women on screen ever, said the real lover is the man who can thrill you with a kiss to the forehead or by smiling into your eyes. The real accomplishment is to know how to make love to the same woman for the rest of your life. 3 things I'd like you to bear in mind about fidelity. 1, we do not admire it. The facts speak for themselves. If we did, there would be no such thing as a super injunction. No man would ever lie to his wife, no politician to his electorate, no footballer to his fans. We complain about the hypocrisy of the Victorians. It had nothing on our hypocrisy. We don't mind infidelity? Tell me. Did Tiger get more sponsorship once he was found out? Did the popularity of the heir to the throne go up once it was discovered that his marriage was rather crowded? Hands up any woman here who thinks Henry VIII must have been a great lover. I don't think we respect infidelity. I think we've lost our bottle. I think we think it's too difficult. The expense of spirit in a state of shame is lust in action. Savage, extreme, rude, cruel, not to trust, enjoyed no sooner but despised straight, past reason hunted, and no sooner had, past reason hated. We don't admire infidelity. The fact that we do something doesn't mean that we look up to it. Secondly, infidelity is sexist. C.S. Lewis said well over half a century ago that so-called sexual liberation is always going to favour men at the expense of women. I don't like gender generalisations very much, but some things are undeniable. And one of them is that we women are designed to attract love in our youth and keep love for life. Yes, we get sexier, more interesting, more attractive as we get older to the man who already loves us, not across a crowded room. We aren't, let's be brutal, designed to attract love in middle age. So a society in which there's constant partner swapping is bound to be a misogynist one. In addition, women tend to invest, even today, in a relationship, things that are not so easily transferable. Maybe time on the children, on the home, possibly even his career. You can't pick that up and take that to a new home. Men often contribute, yes, just as much to a home, by going out to work. He can pick that up and take it with him. He loses nothing. She may lose the last 20 or 30 years of investment. It comes more naturally to us to love for life because we do what a lot of men aspire to, which is we love more holistically, instinctively, with body, mind, and soul. And some men find it very threatening when women find something easier than they do. What a failure for feminism if instead of winning men over to our values, we end up pandering to their appetites. And then, of course, most critically of all, women care about children. Yes, men do too, but not in the same way. It didn't hurt you when they came into the world. And when children hurt, women hurt. And that's the third point I want to make about infidelity. It hurts. Come with me in your mind's eye to any city, any town, any village in this country, any street. Thankfully, not every household, but still a sickeningly large minority. Go up the stairs to some of the smaller bedrooms, where a child may lie sleeping and weeping, crying, hurting at his or her parents' infidelity, and then tell me infidelity is funny. Show me a child, any small boy or girl, who finds his or her parents' adultery a joke, or something he or she doesn't care about. It hurts, and it hurts the most vulnerable. Okay, you may be single, perhaps you have no children, doesn't matter so much. I won't say you're not hurting anybody, because you may be, but at least you're not hurting a child. But I will say with confidence that your life, and certainly your love life, is not as fulfilling or satisfying as it could be. Now, any of us who have espoused fidelity can tell you that that's common sense. In case you don't believe us, the objective research bears it out. For instance, the University of Chicago's National Sex Study showed that for the men among you, you are 20 times more likely to have sex this week if you're married than if you're footloose and fancy-free. That's quite an argument, isn't it? Do you not think? The average married, what is it, 48% of married men will be having sex at least twice a week. How many percent are single men? 1.26. For women, you're 10 times more likely to be having sex this week if you're married. But more importantly, the sex is more satisfying. That is more important, isn't it? I mean, I think frequency is quite important too, frankly. But married men report, 50% of married men report an extremely satisfying sexual life if they are married. It's about 44% of married women. For those even in stable, cohabiting relationships, it's less than 39%. And of course, if you're single, footloose, and fancy-free, clearly you're not having much sex at all, so it can't possibly be satisfying. I believe that we don't admire infidelity, we've just lost our bottle. If you tell a child over and over again that he can't do something, he will believe you, and we're no different. You're stupid, you can't do maths. Then of course he can't, she can't. How often are we told that fidelity is too difficult? You can't do it. Yes, my friends, you can. A friend of mine in her early 30s saw my parents a couple of years ago walking down the street hand in hand, and she said, "I am so jealous." And I said, "What of?" And she said, "That's what I want, to be in love like that." Last year, we would have celebrated my parents' platinum wedding anniversary. That is 70 years of faithful, exclusive lovemaking. They gave me the greatest gift with their Christian faith that parents can give a child, a vision not only for the ideal, but for the possible. That's what they gave to me. Sadly, my mother died a few months before we celebrated that wonderful day, and my father insisted at her funeral on the program on the words of the greatest erotic poem I believe the world has ever seen, the Song of Songs. Love is as strong as death. If you want fidelity, get a dog. Yes, if you can't aspire any higher. It's easy to make a dog love you. You give him a bone. Actually, I doubt if there are many dog lovers on the opposition. I've had, not had in that sense, but a number of dogs, and I love them dearly. And my first dog I had from the age of 13 to the age of 28, and he was great. Fidelity is not a word I would use with any of the dogs I have known. They'd roger a table leg as soon as anything else. We last year sadly lost our daughter's wonderful Great Dane. He shared a dog with our son's terrier, and the terrier didn't really care which end of the Great Dane it was. No, they're not faithful. They adore, yes, but they're not faithful. One of our daughters, we have 3 daughters, and one of them, I believe, I wasn't privy to any of the conversation, obviously, but turned down a young man, a delightful young man, and I said to her, hey, surely he would have made you happy. He adored you. He thought you were the greatest, the most intelligent, the most wonderful. He didn't even seem to care what you looked like. And she said, yeah, I have a dog for that. And she's quite right. Get a dog if you're not ambitious. But I want to be loved by my equal, intellectually and spiritually. Yes, he hurts me. Yes, he usually disagrees with me. But yes, he is dedicating his life to loving me. If you want music, get a triangle. You can learn to play it in 5 minutes. The same evening, you could probably learn to play a tambourine and jingle bells and a couple of blocks of wood, and I think you buy all of them for the price it is to buy some single violin strings, but you will never play Bach or Handel or Beethoven or Tchaikovsky or Bruch or Vivaldi. You will never thrill somebody with such passion that he or she will change a life. To do that, you need to be a virtuoso, and that takes a lifetime.